this is going to be the installation of trailer lights as well as a hitch and a bumper on a 2023 Model 3. The reason I'm doing it is because there were several things that changed in this time. For instance, they got rid of the lead-acid battery in favor of a 16-volt lithium-ion. Went from 14 kilograms down to 1.5. The other things are the wire colors changed on the lighting. They changed how the liner hooks up in the back, and they got rid of the sensors in the rear bumper. So these changes made me put together this very detailed video. I'm hoping that you don't watch the whole video. This is roughly where you should jump to, depending on what piece of information you want. If this is your first time, I guess you could watch it, but it's a lot of detail. So I'm going to be covering this Eco Hitch from Torque Lift Central. This is one we'll be installing today, made for a Model 3. And then that's the hitch, and we'll be putting this modulite from Seconisha or whatever for the trailer lighting, which basically you've probably never seen a Model 3 with trailer lighting. It's super rare. If you ever see something like that sitting in the back of a Model 3, you know that they bothered to put in trailer lighting. So it's not a common feature. Okay, hope you guys enjoy the video. As I said, jump to where you need to watch it. And this will hopefully help save you some time. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. Thanks. This will be the first fuse that is in your Model 3. They don't have fuses. Everything's controlled by circuits, so we're putting one in for this job. And just remember, every new job is an excuse to buy a new tool. So, I was not happy with the instructions for a Tesla Model 3 on how to install a tow bar into the back. So, I got Teslarati's tow bar here. I'm going to install it here. In 2022, 2023, they changed the Model 3 a bit. So I'm going to go over real quick on the differences. So for one, I guess, as many of you know, they got rid of the 12-volt lead-acid, put a 16-volt lithium-ion in. So we're going to have to end up attaching to this post for the trailer lights instead of the regular battery terminal. Also, as you know, anything you get that plugs into the 12-volt cigarette lighter, whatever your power port, has to be able to handle 16 volts. So we're going to do that and cover running the wire back along here and then underneath of the frame to the back here. And then we're going to cover ripping the back bumper off. To jack up the back of it, right here underneath, you have these little nipples, and that's where you put the jack stands to jack it up. I made a mistake here. I should have put the jack further back and then put the stand right on the what do you call it? The lifting point. But there's another lifting point just like that up front. So those are the 4 lifting points just to the inside of the tires. Like earlier models, you take and remove this, what do you call it? Little pressure, I don't know, whatever it is called, pops piece. And then, I don't know if you can see, but in there, right here, is where the other one is. Yeah, you can't see it so well. There's a second one in there. Okay, earlier I missed that one right there. There's actually 3 of them and one back there that's hard to see. There. So I got 3. Here I just grabbed on the inside of the piece that has the hitch. I just start pulling up, and there it comes off. So when we go to put this back on, the hard part's going to be getting this lip up underneath here. We'll have to get it into there. But as you can see, there are your 4 clips that go into your 4 slots. Next, I'm removing these 2 tail light retraining screws, and then the one over here as well. You should be able to get them by hand tightening, but if the vehicle's got any age on it, you're going to have to use some kind of gripping tool. Okay, you can see they have that greased up, and I'm just putting those inside. Now, one of the differences between the 22 and later is this piece up here. I'm pretty sure this needs taken out so that we can remove these the side here. So to get that out, you've got your retaining parts. Where are they? Right there. So I'm going to be removing that. And then on this side, it's right there. That light that's in for the trunk just kind of makes it hard to see. And then we're going to take this top piece off. These are a little bit tricky to get off, but basically you got the screwdriver in there, and then just twist it, and then you should be able to pull it out after it's popped. Okay, now that you took off the top and have been able to pull off the side, I put a stick in there. You can see here inside of the is the back of the headlight, and that 8mm and this 8mm right here need removed so you can pop the tail light off after you've removed the top. Okay, after taking off the 2 8mm, you remove the tail light connector right there. Now, I already did it, but I will tell you the key for me was this red tab in the back. I opened it and then tried to wiggle it, but that didn't work. Just pull straight back solely on the tab, and then it released. The next thing is, I thought that these 2 rubber spots in the back were going to, oh man, yeah, there's one, there's the other. I thought those 2 were going to release, but it turns out the key to pulling this out, getting it loose in the front, pushing in on the, what do you call it, weather sealing, the trunk seal, and then once I got it past the trunk seal, I ended up, oh no, I can't get it. Yep, you see how that went. So once I got it past the trunk seal, I needed to grab here and here and wiggle. And what came off was, they've got little metal posts that go into the rubber seal. And then that's where your connector was. And here are your 2 screws that were in there. So that's the tail light. Definitely, yeah, it's nice working on new things. So they come off actually. They've got this. This is your speaker for the rear boombox or whatever you want to call it. That was fun to find. And then I'm not exactly sure what this is. It might be an amplifier for the rear, but not real sure. It's warm when you touch it. So. Also, you can see here they clearly consider the trunk to still be part of the insulated car. They put the insulation there. Okay, so now we got the tail light off. Okay, so this installation came with a ZTC by Technosha that is going to be mounted under here in the tail light section. So what it's got is the little Ferris clip that goes around the wire and senses current. For, in this case, it is the right tail light. And then, well, anyway, what we're going to do is, this is going to be our ground clip, and we're going to put that, as a stick I had holding things off, right there onto that bolt for the ground source. Then we're going to have to run the power wire all the way up to the front of the vehicle. This kit has a 15 amp breaker. I think I already told you that I believe this is the amplifier for the rear speakers. Not real sure. So once you get the tail light out, that gives you access to the, oh, I was also going to say, I always put the nuts back on to the original location, in this case to help keep those white washers from disappearing. This gives you access to the 10mm bolt for removing the rear bumper. And then we're going to have to do the same thing over on this side. On the driver's side here we have, as you can see, there's the power cables coming in from the charging. And that then has, these are the two bolts that you need to remove from there and there from the driver's side. You see the power cables running back. This was interesting. I didn't realize that I even had that. You need to remember to stuff it back in this hole. But this is a 2023. You pull on this, and it has a little solenoid. Presumably it opens the trunk, which is ironic because, you know, they have this button here that also, when you push it, opens the trunk. So maybe when I'm done I'll find out what that's for. So removing the bolts. Okay, two bolts are off. It's easier to see here. Pull out that red tab, remove the connector. Then, of course, this has been removed from before. Is the 8mm bolts. Grab here, make sure that you've got it past the trunk weather stripping. This sucker opened when I touched it, which I think is going to help. And then just wiggle it out. Your two washers. I'm going to throw the nuts back on there so I don't get lost. Then these are 8mm nuts, 10mm to get the bumper off. As you can see, the same two that worked out of there. This one was more like straight back, not some of the sides so much. And then we hop down here. And what do we have? So we need to remove these two 10mm. As you go around, you get here, pop that off, 10mm. We have to open these, and I'll do that later. And then one there, and then going around there. So that's process of removing here. Okay, there's your two side bolts up there. They look like that. Your bolt right here goes up in here, larger washer. If you look, this is open, closed. So you turn that sucker to this way. It should wiggle down, and then you pull back, it comes out. So right here, that is open, and then closed. So you have the closed, there, that's what I wanted to show you. Closed is when it's that way. Okay, but you will probably leave this off if you put a hitch on. Right there is the space where your trailer hitch will go. And then repeat it there and over there. So, okay, I forgot to remove that sucker right there. That, leave alone. This one down here is a, what is it, a T25. So, T25 Torx bit right there on both sides. And then after that, you can work your way around the bumper. This 25mm screw you just removed, this tab seems to always fall off when you remove it. So, the curved up part and the nipple goes on the top. You need to push that back on. and then when you put it back in, you're good. As always, I tend to put the screws back in here so that I don't lose them. The motion is a little bit up and out. You can see there that how it's being held. So basically out. But here you need to go up. And as I said, those are the rear sensors that are discontinued in 23 and later. I decided to start trying to use cameras only. So that problem is turning out to be way tougher than they thought. They said a month or so. Here we are 6 months out. It might be a year before they figure out how to get the self-parking working again. But yeah, up and out. Okay, things I didn't tell you. So these two right here in the middle, right there, and then this one right there and there also needed taken out. I have the screws on the floor. So in addition to the ones that I did say about there and there, these two right here I'm going to put back in. They do not need taken out apparently. I took the entire thing off because that's what turns out to be the easiest. As I said, you don't have to remove this connector for the sensors in the 2023 and later, and I think it was in maybe October, November for the Model Y. They stopped putting the ultrasonic sensors in. So, this is the bumper after it's been removed. You can see here where I guess that is just an air baffle, not a sensor thing. Also, not used for the sensors. Sorry, not used for the sensors. You can see your clips straight out. These clips go up. Across here, it's straight out. And same on the other side. Another air baffle. So, there's the clips on the actual bumper itself. As you go around, you can see, yeah, you can see all the clips. Okay, now we're going to sit that off to the side and move on to working on the bumper here. We'll have to remove that part next. Okay, right up under here is that bolt. We need to take this off. So, this clip over here, not used of course. Let's see, right there. That needs to come out so that we can slide it off. Maybe you can see it there. Clip is out, and if you have it that way, and you pull hard enough, it comes off that way. And this, let's see here, is a 10 millimeter. I have to turn it higher, but I'm going to remove that one, this one, that one, that one, and that one. And then I'm just going to throw it in the trunk. 10 millimeter. Okay, so that was taken off. I just, as I said, laid it in there. And then we get to these. Now, I've broken these all loose, but only two on this side. Interesting, huh? And then the top and the back. So, I'm going to now remove 1, 2, 3 on this side, 4, 5, 6, 7 on this side, and take off the actual metal bumper. And yeah, using a pneumatic tool, because how often do I get to do that? Things should be fun. And then I'll probably use an impact wrench. These are actually on there pretty tight, but you should be able to hand break them loose. I did it with a 3/8 inch. Like I said, these are 15 millimeter. The ones above here are the 10. 15 for the bumper. And again, I forgot this one, this one, this one, and that one. So this outer bumper right here is what you would probably normally have to replace in an accident. And then these two pieces here are basically what they have designed for the hitch mounting spot. So it's just a piece of metal in there that holds the two pieces that will be replaced by your new bumper hitch. I've thought about why they only have two on this side and three on that side. And the only thing I can come up with is maybe a driver's side collision is slightly more common. And also, what do you call that? Pokey yoke. You can't put it on backwards. It's kind of keyed. So, you take those out. And then, take this one off. And those, you're going to get rid of. And we take our hitch here. And we're going to put that up onto there. So, I'll do that next. Okay, so here's the towing setup. As I said, we're going to have to throw those away. The hitch replaces that. The one that's being put on is this Torque Lift Central Eco Hitch. The important number to pay attention here is this 300 pounds tongue weight. That's important in the 200,000 pounds towing weight. So the Model 3 is rated for 7,500 kilograms without trailer brakes and 1,000 kilograms with trailer brakes. The one we were installing today is no trailer brakes. So basically you can tow a small camper, like one of those pop-ups, is the max you could possibly go, and you probably ought to have brakes for that. Mostly, we're thinking about bike racks, right? So the 300, the tongue weight is what you care about for that, and you can see this one is 300-pound tongue weight. So that implies that we got this Yakima bike rack. This thing requires a 500-pound tongue weight, which will let you know how much force is being put on that when you're running around with bikes. What will probably happen is I'll ignore that and put all 4 bikes on, but then maybe not swing it out to the side. This has a thing that swings out to the side. So you don't want to exceed your tongue weight by too much, or you'll end up ripping this whole thing apart to repair the damage. So this kit came. Probably should have opened it before I did all this. It's got great pictures in there. But they gave me a ton of plastic washers. So I'm going to put them everywhere. Let's see here. Now, remember, never ever put the plastic washers on the side where your nut is going to be making contact. So your nut needs to go straight against the metal so that it can make a good connection. So, where are we putting these things? I'm going to put one between each of the back sides here on both sides. And then that will rest against the back of this plate. And then I'm going to put one on here. They gave me an extra nut, so I'm going to feed that in through the back and put one on that. And then that surface will go against here on the bumper. And like I said, never put the nuts have to go straight against steel. So we're going to put this back up in place and get those started. I don't know. I'll look up a torque spec for the next video, or next section. Okay, it is 70 Newton meters. So, you put on your torque and crank it down till you get to 70 Newton meters. I forgot to mention, but when you're taking this thing off, there's a lot of cracking and separation sounds as the painted bumper, the paint separates and allows it to break apart. So it makes a little noise. So you get to 70 Newton meters on your torque for the bolts. That's 50 inch-pounds or feet-pounds. And then, well, okay. This one right here, you can't really get to. So what you do is you just get these torqued to what they're supposed to be. Then you put your wrench on there, and you get a feel for how much torque is 70 inch-pounds. Then you move your wrench down, and you just do this one to the same. Even though you can't get the exact torque number, it'll give you the feel. So, as you can see, we put washers in between here, and no washer where the nut hits the metal. Okay. This and that. Throw away. This goes on there and on there. And then after that, put our nuts on. 70 Newton meters. Okay, one of the things I messed up at first, I was trying to go straight in perpendicular to the vehicle. You need to be in at an angle to the bumper to get them started. After you get them in, you want to move the bumper back and forth to try to line up with the marks from before so that it'll line up later. And then finally, because this was probably not supposed to go here, this screw, you need a long needle nose pliers to hold it while you run the screw in. So, if I didn't mention it earlier, of course, you got to get all of the nuts started before you start to torque any of them. So, everything, and then as you torque, don't torque one at a time. Jump around, of course. Do one, like I jumped between these three and both sides, all 6. Going back and forth until they were all around 70 Newton meters. Okay, like I said, parts I'm throwing away. Now, this is the order there. Lock washer, brass. I'm going to put this up here. You can see that nut, which will end up on the outside. And then after I get that, we're going to put the other nut into, there we go. Okay, 150 Newton meters. You know what I meant. 24 millimeter head. And it's a torque for that sucker. And then you got your 2-inch receiver for whatever hitch you're going to put in. Okay, before just assuming that that is a ground back there, how do we check that? Get an old plug from a lamp that's died ages ago. Take your wire stripper, strip the wires off the end of the plug. Make sure you have both ends of the plug, because the last thing you want to do is have one end plugged in. But basically, go back here and wrap your wires around the actual negative terminal. Follow that and wrap your wires around there to make sure that it does go to the ground of the battery and that it's not just a ground that is running to a relay somewhere or disconnected. I'm going to stop and continue. Next, I had these nuts in, so I had to take all of the screws out, all the bolts out, and then I put it back on right here. You got to make sure these are lined up and press fit in. Of course, get them all in before you go do any tightening. And then this sucker here, I almost had it tucked in behind. That gets put on there and clips in. And this, you can put wherever you want. I might zip tie it up there when I'm done. And then we just tighten all of these. So, that won't take too long. That's 10 millimeter. Okay, I zip tied that out of the way. So, if you are not doing the tail light package, you're good. You start putting the bumper back on. For the tail light package, then we get to start with the process of trying to figure out where to mount this thing in here. So it comes with a double-sided, what is it called? Adhesive right here, that little square. And then there's also foam for wrapping around the wires to make sure that they don't rub. So normally, if you get this installed, what they're going to do is they're going to take this and they're just going to stuff it. It'll come out of the corner here somewhere, and it'll just be hanging. I don't like that. So what I was looking for a way to get from here down to the hitch, where I like it to just be hanging at the hitch. What we came up with was here where the air flaps are. I figured out what those are, not sensors. So in the front of the vehicle, the fan blows air on you, pulls it in from the air intake from the outside of the vehicle. Well, it pushes the whole way through the vehicle, and on this side and the other side is where it physically pushes out of the vehicle. So I took and tried to figure out if I could fit this in. It is extremely close. So in the process, I attempted to stretch it out to see if I could flex the plastic. Instead, it broke on two sides. So, word of advice, just break one if you're planning on doing this instead of two like I did. Okay, make very sure you have both ends of the extension cord. Take and plug your lamp into one. And then that, of course, goes to your negative battery terminal. You take your other end, run to the back of the vehicle here. You want to get your voltmeter turned to the diode setting or continuity test. And then we will take and hook up one of the terminals, since they're tied together, it doesn't matter which one, to the end of the extension cord. And the other one is going to go to what we're testing to make sure that we've chosen a good ground. And as you can see, the voltmeter goes to 0. That is going to be ground. So, right here, this is the ground for our controller, which we're going to have to mount in there. And then, as you can see, before I put that ground on, I ran this out the back, and I'm going to put this up through here and zip tie that in place so that it'll be available at the hitch. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is run the wire to power this. So you want to look at the power wire that is supplied and find out what gauge it is by checking it. This is, I believe, 12 gauge. Could be 14. So you don't want to go smaller than that. This is the time, if you think you might add powered brakes at some point, you want to go at least 10 gauge. What we're going to have to do is find a way. Oh, I think this is a subwoofer for low sounds. We're going to have to go through this metal, what do you call it, the frame right there somewhere. So, in order to find a way through there, maybe a little bit easier, what we're going to do is remove this liner right here. So, it has a lot of these twist-off nuts. Okay, got tired of this thing constantly turning on and trying to air condition. So your little vehicle, then you're down to safety, and then you have to scroll all the way, but at the very bottom, power off. And yes, we want to power off. And hopefully that will stop the constant air conditioning. Okay, I ended up taking out these two. And then that one there, that one right there up at the top. On the other side, well, you can see it better from there. That one right there. Took that one out. And then this one down here. And because I do a lot more work on houses than cars even, I used a snake to weave up through there. I guess you could use any stiff wire with a curl in the end, and came down over here. Now, since we're looking at where to come in, I took a light down here and shined it up into the frame, and using that method, I was looking and decided that right down in there you can see some light, which is where we're going to go through. So if we hop down here, let's see, that's where we're going to come out. We have right here, which is one option, or right there is a little opening too. So we're going to have to snake the wire through one of those two spots. And then we'll follow the snake right here. There's the end of the snake. Hook it on there and pull it up through the liner around to the other side. While we're hanging out down here, we'll get a little tour. So this wiring harness goes out for the sensors for the bumper that we don't have. And then right here, this harness goes back in here. This, I believe, might be a tire pressure sensor. Goes up into a connector on the top. Sorry, connector on the top side there. You can see you have your, let's see, your springs for suspension there, and shocks right there. Here, I'll hold you sideways. Shocks going up there. Oh, this was out of the way. Yeah, there we are. And brake lines, of course. This is the basin that dips down there in the back that you can see your stuff can go in. So that's how we're going to run the wire. Next point. This, if you're going to mess up, this is where you need to be the most careful. So we already talked about at least as heavy a gauge wire. The next thing I would say is make sure it is got good, thick, strong automotive insulation on it, because what's going to happen is when we put it up through here, well, you saw the hole, that is going to eventually, when it runs into any sharp space on the frame, it'll rub. And so eventually it will short out, and you'll basically have your 16-volt battery running straight to the frame of your car, grounded, and it'll start destroying the wire. Which is why when we get all the way to the front, you've got to put this 15 amp fuse as close to the positive terminal as you can, because that way, if you fail, it'll blow, and you'll have a different problem that's a lot more appealing. So that way that you avoid that, of course, is every time you go through any opening in the frame, you got to get your shrink tubing. I guess, I don't know, with the adhesive on the inside is the best stuff. It's hard to focus on that. But, and then get the shrink tubing, I think they call it marine grade, with the adhesive on the inside. Heat gun is the ideal, and you just end up, you know, shrinking it that way. A hairdryer will usually not work. I oftentimes use a lighter. You get a grill lighter, and think nothing on a car is going to burn very quickly. Well, not an electric car. So, yeah, you just kind of shrink it with the lighter. So, that is the deal. We're going to hook it onto here, pull it up over, come out down here, and then we're going to try to tuck it up under here and run it along there. Okay. Okay, you want to get plenty of wire. Make sure you've got tons of wire, because reworking the wire is, your time is worth more than you will ever get back. Okay, I decided, first I was thinking about removing this bolt, but instead I took the snake, and this is the jack, what do you call it, where the nipple is supposed to go for lifting the vehicle. I snaked it up through there and got it to pop out there. So now I'm gonna take the wire and pull it down through. Okay, here at the back is the only place where I went on the far side of one of these bolt covers. So, all the way down here, just lifting up and pushing the wire. Every time I got to one of these bolt covers, I made sure I pushed it in so far that it was on the back side of the bolt cover to help hold the wire in. All the way down. Now, at this point, we're going to assume that the wire is not going to slide back and forth anymore. We're where we are. So down here, they've got a little bolt from the frame coming out. This is what we're talking about when we talk about pinch point, because especially I think I might go up in there to get into the engine compartment. So, got some shrink tubing. I'm going to slide it up to where the spot is and then shrink it with a heat gun. So like I said, when it goes through the frame, you got to protect the wire. That's the only place that this is really tricky at all. Okay, I found going down from the top right through there was my best bet. You can't see that that orange, where that orange goes, down in there. And needless to say, it came out here at the bottom, right there. So as you can see, the problem is that's real close to suspension. You want to keep it away from any moving parts. Okay, right above here is a this right here is a significant wire bundle. Probably goes to the back of the vehicle. And I found out that it comes out very close over here. So there it is. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the same wire bundle right there. So what we're going to do is try to snake this wire. Sorry, push the wire. That'll be fun. Over to the snake. And then pull it up and try to make sure that it tries to follow that wire bundle. And maybe we'll even get a zip tie on it. Okay. Okay, pulled it out through. I'm just going to let it sit there. Okay, the two push pins there. This one right here gets one of these suckers. It would be nice if you could get new ones. They do just push on. I did turn it and twist it to get it off, but I believe it doesn't actually have threads. And maybe I should try to find some. Maybe it does thread. Yeah, I guess it is threaded. So, but I'm pretty sure they're push on. So, it'd be nice to get new ones of those. So, the two down below, that one. Then we get to this one up here. That one right there. And then finally, that one right there are the ones that I took off. And I routed the wire on the back side of those. But on the other hand, it's on the front side of that, you know, on the outside of the car from that one and that one, which should keep the wire in the middle so that it doesn't, you know, move off to the side too much. Okay, so I've closed up the fender. Now I've got this wire coming out just above where this wiring harness leaves the, I guess you would call that tail light area. So I had a choice between this hole or this one. And this one up here has rounded edges on two sides. This is the only sharp edge right here, which makes it a lot more appealing to me than this one down here with that whole, you know, area of sharp edge there, plus this. So I took an awl and I widened the hole enough to get my wire through and hopefully some shrink tubing. So I ran my shrink tubing down onto the edge of the wire, and now I'm going to feed it up through and get it roughly the right position. And then I will place the shrink tubing and shrink it. Okay, I had to remove this push pin and pull this back. and then I get it down to there. That little bit of light is where I was coming through. Sorry, over here is where I was coming through. So it turned out it was not as long as I should have, so I put shrink tubing from the top. Needless to say, it didn't seal up well. I had to cut off the shrink tubing and redo it down here. And now I've got a nice, the entire length shrink tubed with shrink tubing. I will say, if you notice, when I was putting it through the whole opening, you can see right even there a little bit of the sheathing started to come off. So I do think this is the most important part of this. So now I'm going to run it back up through and try this again. The other thing I would say is, I know that I mentioned the importance of getting automotive grade wire and all of that. That is important. I didn't do it. So I've never actually had a wire rub loose on me, probably because of concern over shrink tubing and edges, but you know, that is the reason that they use automotive grade wiring, is this is a common problem. So okay, remember, you do not want your battery positive hooked up at this point. That is the last thing you do. Okay, so at this point I decided I wanted to figure out where to mount the controller. I hate adhesives. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the grounding pin that we put in out, and we're going to mount it on the back side of that. And I'm going to drill out that hole to be big enough to handle this screw. So after I screw that in, then we're going to pull the wiring for the actual trailer lighting tight and start routing that. And we're going to, at that point, we're going to route this and attach it here. Remember, still no battery in the front of the car. Also, I wanted to point out how important this is. We got the shrink tubing there coming well above the place where the wire is cut. It's no strain on it. And then on the bottom side, it's going to be up under the bumper. You can see it's just nice and loose. Lots of open space. So you don't want strain on the wires at the points where it goes through tight places either. So predictably, the nut on the back side of this is part of the frame welded in. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this, it's about 22 millimeter bolt, it's a 6 millimeter point, or 1 millimeter pitch. And I got a 30 millimeter. I'm going to go all of the way through, thread it into the bolt like normal, but then I widened the hole right there to match a 6 millimeter, and I'm going to run this lock washer and nut on the back side, so it'll still be mounted there just behind. Okay, I removed the plastic sheathing and crimped these next to each other. Crimping, more desirable for high current. I'm prone to soldering, being an electronics guy, but whatever. Shrink tubing, and that glue will seal it up on both ends so that we don't need to worry about corrosion or water getting in. And as you know, that bottom of that thing, I can't show you anymore, but it's potted, and no water gets up in there. Okay, if you're sure that your red wire goes all the way up into the unit and is not exposed anywhere, then I think we're finally time to figure out how to attach to the post in the front. The thing you might be scared of is the positive terminal touching something when you're tightening these bolts. I will say this, the housing for the lithium ion is electrically isolated and not tied to the frame or negative or anything. So I got out a meter and probed around. Right here is a bolt that is not painted, and that is battery voltage, or sorry, that's ground for the frame. So I guess you could touch that, although the paint should keep you insulated if you don't touch the bolt. And then these, what are they called? Coolant valves are also grounded that you could touch with the battery post. And then finally, these bolts right here going into the fire, covering the firewall. Those are also chassis ground. So there are things you can touch if you are not a little bit careful. Okay, I grabbed right here, popped that out, and now still can't see that well, but I'm going to go down in here with my hand and zip tie this wire, and I'll show you a better view from the bottom then. Okay, I crawled in the frunk and zip tied 2 places down there. I decided to route it around the front of this coolant reservoir. I tried to just crimp the blue one on twice, but every time I pulled on it, it came loose. So I'm doing this, which when I pull on it, it's tight, and now I'm going to do the shrink tubing. And then I changed my mind. I'm going to bolt this little sucker through the existing opening. That way I don't have to drill a hole or anything. And then I'll have my 15 amp fuse in, and I think it'll look nicer and be just as secure. So okay, there's the new solution. I didn't have to drill a hole. I didn't have to do anything different, and I managed to get oh, where is it? Yeah, I guess that's the post. Anyway, that's the fuse. I can't show you the post, it's too close. But that's what I did. I wrapped it around, put the fuse back in there, the 15 amp fuse, came underneath. This sucker right here has no clips on the bottom, so it's just kind of like on a hinge. The top 2 hold it, and then the piece that goes on top is going to clip in and push it in, and that's what's going to fasten it. So I don't know if you can see, but my wire from the fuse holder, wherever it is in there, anyway, comes down in, snakes down through there, and I zip tied it to the wiring harness the whole way. Okay, so there it is, and then it snakes up right in there, right up through there, and then up through in there. So that's what I did. I zip tied it as many places as I reasonably could, and along with a wire bundle. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was this vehicle might be heavier than some of the ones you're used to working on, especially if you have SUVs. So if you have a cheap jack stand, when you go to loosen it, the moment it starts to drop at all, you need to crank it tight again and then go back and loosen it a couple times. So that's the project. This air intake, like I said, goes on top and pushes down to hold that in place. You can see right there, lines up, and then you got to make sure all these are clipped in real tight. That might not even, and this is going to nest in there just like that. So that's back together again. You close your frunk. You got to slam these things pretty good, don't you? And we're together. Yeah, I forgot to put the cover on. So just wiggle it around, line it up. You'll be able to feel when it's in place, and then just go all the way around and push every edge. And yeah, you got to do the top too. So that's that. So now that we have our power to the rear hooked up, we can go back here. I've jumped the gun a little bit, but in order to, if you don't have one of these wireless transmitters and one of these wireless systems for the brake lights, you're going to have another person help you. But you really need to plug it in, and I haven't come out there, plug it in and get this verified that everything is working properly before you start closing things up. So, this right here is the instructions. I don't know about the Model Y, but the Model 3 for the 2023 was wrong. So, I've called out the connector here. So wire colors change sometimes. It's rare, but occasionally a manufacturer will change wire colors if they're trying to do something different or change voltage levels. In this case, they changed everything. What does not change is the positions on the connectors. If they change that, they typically change the connector. So I'm telling you here what the functions on the connector are. And so I ignored their colors and used this tail light yellow. You know, the black one is ground, so I don't put anything on that. And then turn signal is either orange on the left, tan on the right. You get the point. And then gray is your brake light. So in here, I was originally thinking that this thing might have some controlling of it, but I don't think that is an amplifier. It just doesn't make sense to me, but I'm just going to call it a rear control module or trunk control module. So I chose to go everything onto this that I could off of this right-hand connector to the turn signal, or sorry, tail light itself. So if you can see here, I did the stop onto the gray, the yellow for the tail light. You could do that on either side. These two are the same. And then way back here, the right turn signal is going to be that third position. So I tried zip ties just to see, but it doesn't work. So I'm sure that maybe you guys know about this okay, they keep changing the name. It used to be self-vulcanizing rubber tape. Then it was, what do they call it? Adhesive tape, or what do you call it? Yeah, self-adhesive. And now it's silicone tape. And who knows what they're going to call it next. But basically, it's rubber tape. And the key to that, if you haven't used it before, is you got to stretch it real tight. And I put that around so that it would hold the wire into the channel. Over here you can see that that's what I'm trying to do. Hold the wire into the channel. Now, let me tap this back up here. So you really want to notice the arrow there. It's very important that the flow of current matches the arrow going towards the connector. I have that for all of these. You can't see it on most of them, but yeah. So what I'm going to do is I measured the tape for the first one, and then after I did that, I took the white remaining piece and I cut more pieces for the rest. So I'm going to try to get some of that dirt off before I start this, but I'm going to tape that into place. And in order to get this routed over here, I had to totally take out, and then I had to remove this push pin. I put it back, but I'm running it underneath there, and it's just going to hang loose. And I felt around. I don't think there's any rub spots, but if there is a problem with that one, that is not so horrible to get to. So I'm going to be a little sloppy and quick with that. And then after I get this all put together, I'm going to put the tail lights in temporarily, and I'm going to plug them in to make sure that they're going to work exactly like they will in the vehicle as it drives. And then I'm going to take these wireless tail lights that go on the back of the trailer up into the cabin of the car and sit in the driver's seat and hit the brakes and turn the turn signals on and all that jazz. So, yeah, that's where we're at. I will catch you up when I'm done with that. Okay, here we go. I have the lights here. That's left and right. I'm going to turn the stalk down. You can see the left side and the right side. Hit the brake. And earlier it turned off. So looks like it's working for the moment. And then if you want to see here, I put this tail light in. I had to plug that one in. That was a little bit of a struggle. And then this one I couldn't get in, so I plugged it in that way. So one of the things I learned earlier was you can't get these connectors out by pulling on the connector like I normally do. You basically got to put a screwdriver in and pull out on the screwdriver to get them out. So, a little extra safety feature. Okay, now I'm going to take the taillights off. Okay, this is what I settled on. The shrink tubing, it was too big and didn't fit. So I took pliers and smushed it flat. The glue inside of it can hold it onto the wire and keep it from sliding back and forth, which is another reason to use the shrink tubing with glue inside of it. If this doesn't work, the other option was using that silicone tape. That also can slide around though. So I just did this, heated the living daylights out of it, and crushed it down and hoped the glue is going to hold it from sliding back and forth to protect it at, let's say, the edge of that point right there. Okay, so that being said, I don't believe I mentioned it, but these two, what do you call those, links right there? I bought those myself because the original kit didn't come with any. So, I pulled the bumper over here, and this piece here was removed earlier when we took the bumper off, but just so you know, that should not be on there when you put it on. I believe this is going to come down. I believe this is going to come down through that hole. So, normally I have to take all of the bolts out of wherever I put them, but I left them laying on the ground this time, so the only one I have to take out is this one at the top and the other side. So I'm gonna start trying to line the bumper up with the bolts, and then I will start snapping it in from the middle, hopefully, and work my way out. Okay, I started in the middle. Before you get too far, make sure that flap is up underneath there. Then you can start working right in around here. Before you get to the sides too far, make sure that tab right there has that metal bracket that might have fallen out earlier. There's another one on this side that also falls out. And then here, we got to get it up over. That's where I'm at now. Okay, this did not go on as smooth as I would have liked. It was tough to put on, which I guess means it won't fall off. Snapped it up here, all the way around, and then right in here, that was quite an effort. So I just pushed really hard, and this is, I don't know, brand new, 200 miles on it. So I'd hate to work on one that was 15 years old, but maybe after you've backed into a few things, that might not be as easy. Okay, so now once we got both sides on, the next thing you do is put in the bolts that you're going to probably forget, that you're prone to forget. So this one, and on the other side, and then the next ones we're likely to forget are this sucker right here, right up in there, which, hard to see, but yeah. So I'm going to put those on. Then after that, these bolts are roughly laying where they go. I'm going to start here in the middle with these two. They go under there and there, and then work my way back, and then off to the sides. Okay, this liner needs to go on the inside, and then up here, sometimes I use an awl, and I push it through to line all of the clip that's above it up, so that when you run the screw in, it's already square. Loctite on it for the threads, so make sure if you don't have a nice good tight seal that you add more Loctite. It should be difficult to put in. And then the same with all these other bolts. So hand tighten or put them in loose. Put all the bolts in loose. And those two, then here, and after all the bolts are in loose, then we're going to do the push pins. Okay, the 3 push pins. Right up there, and there. And those you are good to push and snap in right after you get all 3 flush. Remember, your bolt's not tight yet. We're going to do that later. Then the other side for push pins. Okay, now to run in the bolts from the middle up through, and then we do the outside. take your cordless drill and set the brake to something that will allow it to overcome the Loctite, but will still allow it to drive. Start off with a bolt that you know is lined up and is not cross-threaded, and then run it. See, that's too low. And then run it all the way up in. And once you get the tension right for the first bolt, then see, maybe I have it cross-threaded. So I'm going to switch over to another bolt. Once you get the torque right, then you can feel safe that you won't strip a cross-threaded bolt. See, that one's nice and tight. Okay, I can feel there's no distance. Okay, so once you have a torque that should work on them, then you can run around and do all the others. And if the brake won't go, back it out and try to make sure it's not cross-threaded. Okay, that one was not cross-threaded, but the Loctite had been pushed pretty far back on the bolt. And I ended up having to take it out and clean it out with my fingers. I got all the way up to 15 on the drill, and you can feel that it's going up in fine. So on this one I felt more comfortable, and it was fine at 16. Never, when it got to the bottom, it stopped. Finally, the two bolts that we always forget, and that one. Okay, and then these tabs here, we can flip those up and push them in. It should be difficult to do. Nice. Okay, so those are in, and then this here, a lot of people throw away your cover. What I'm planning on doing is looking at this section right here and trying to notch out that big of an area from here and then put it back on when I'm done. So, but that's a very end of the job project. Okay, time to put the headlights on. Since we didn't want to lose that, these come off. We still have those white washers that go on the outside. We put this on, and remember, these back pins need pushed in first, and then we need to lift the weather stripping for the trunk around. When it's lined up down there, you know you've got it. Although up here, nope, that's it. That's it. And then the other one, same thing. Okay, it's an 8mm for there. There, crank it nice and tight. Then your connector has to go in there. Push it from the back first. Don't forget, tab all the way down and flush. Then you got to make sure that this part that we had added is laying in such a way that it's going to be happy and beautiful. Okay, then same on the other side. Okay, 8mm. Then make sure your red tab back there, after it's pushed in, is locked. You've got your 3 that are laying in a way that's not stressing anything. Wires aren't pushing on any sharp edges or anything. This we had to strip back in order to get the current clamp onto the wires. So now I zip tied this up, trying to clean it up a little bit. You want to make sure there are no edges, but I think we're there. And at this point, you could kind of close the trunk and drive around. So this would be a good time, before you really start closing up the liner, this would be a good time to make one final check of the brakes and maybe even the trailer lights, and then we can start putting the liner back in place. We're gonna have this push pin there. We'll go right in there. You see the spot. Almost forgot. Remember our strap? That's got to be there. It's for the, there. I think that's emergency pull for the trunk. Okay, start stuffing your liner in. It actually goes between that back section there and the front. Goes in between there. Start at the bottom, work your way up. Then the other side, same thing. Make sure this gets tucked on the outside of your bottom, so it goes back in there. Okay, behind here, this goes up against, over top here, around that plastic piece behind there, and then behind there. And then push pin right here. I have to pull mine quite a bit to get the opening to line up, and it's tight. Okay, I just put it straight across and pushed down as hard as I could, and then went and just worked it up the whole way across. And then after I got it open, went back and pushed it down again, and you can hear it pop in the final click, and then your liner's good. So, okay, top liner. I would have forgotten, but right here, which goes up into there, and then on the other side you have one here, right there, that goes up into there. I would have forgotten these push pins, but I had put them in the holes, so they were there. Pull them back out. So we need to put the liner back in and then get those push pins lined up. Okay, I had to put these two push pins in place. I didn't pop them yet tight, but put them in place, and then I'm gonna push these up and get the clips here to pop into place as I go across here, getting it between, see there, one fell out. I have to put that back in, but between this part that grips the frame and the outer molding. So put this back in, and then do that. And then of course I had talked about cutting out the outline for that. In the directions they had said to run both the power and ground. I didn't do that. I just tied it to the frame. Honestly, the frame is grounded. If you want to run two wires, then you have to deal with anchoring it in the front where the negative for the battery attaches to the frame. That's the spot to bolt it on. Okay, I had a bit of time. So I held this up and tried to figure out where it looked like it measured, and I ended up taking out this little spot here, about that much. And then after I had done that, put it back up in, and saw that I had to notch out those two spots. So at this point, let's see. Oh, look at that. So if I can get these two in the front to hook up there and get those tucked out of the way, then as we said before, these need turned and then turned again. And there she is, all patched up. And let's see here. I'll have to put something in, and if the tongue extends back past that, maybe I'll cut out further at some point. These are going to be easy enough to turn with a coin or virtually anything if I ever need to drop out and get to the trailer hitch. Now we close it. What was the last thing I was going to say? So what do you do when you want to drive your car but your breaker box has all 40 breakers full? Well, it turns out I had two of them were 120 amps that came out to the garage. This one here was originally for a refrigerator, and that one there has a bunch of other stuff in the circuit, but or a freezer, sorry. So yeah, so I got a bunch of 10 gauge wire, ran them together into a NEMA plug up there, and yeah, 12 miles per hour charging rate maybe. It might be 15 at times, but just have it hanging down here so that when I come up, it just doesn't hit the ground, and it's, I don't know, just hangs nice. So, okay, that's the end of the trailer hitch project. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed the video and found something useful in it. And go out there, do things. See you around.